In this video today, I'm going to declutter and clean this shelf on top of the cabinet in our hallway. It's right at the top of the base of the stairs, right before you enter to the kitchen. And it is a cabinet that holds mostly the dog's stuff on the inside. I'll show you. This is just a toy that needs to find a home. It just keeps wandering around our house. The little blue bars drop and you catch it. Anyway, inside this cabinet is the dog's stuff, mostly towels to dry them off when the weather isn't great, but stuff collects on the top. So I just want to tackle the top surface today. I don't really need to tackle anything inside this cabinet. It's got their like dog bags, there's extra toys, their grooming supplies, the towels to dry them off, and then at the bottom I have some cleaning supplies that I keep in here as well. So it's really just a storage cabinet. This video is going to launch a new series I am going to call One Shelf Sundays. On Sundays, I'm going to post a video where I clean off one shelf in my house as a way to inspire or motivate you to do the same by setting a small goal, like one shelf, one drawer, one cabinet, something like that. You can slowly make improvements on your house one day at a time. And I'm a big believer in that here on this channel as we declutter, clean, and organize together, that you can do things in small batches. So this red bag that I just added to the collection of clutter on top of this cabinet here is actually my husband's bag of stuff that's been around the house as I've been going through and cleaning off surfaces that I put and collect into here for him to deal with, because those aren't my decisions to make on what's to keep and trash. That's his stuff where he needs to keep it. So I just collect it all on those days that I'm in the mood to clean the house and tidy up. I shove all of his stuff into a bag, and to this day I had a Wawa bag. My name is Erica Lucas, and I usually share videos about decluttering, cleaning, and organizing. I'm glad that you are here with me today. I am moving things off of this surface onto my kitchen table surface as I go through and collect things, because I'm organizing and sorting as I remove them from this surface. And we use the kitchen table a lot. So I know that if I move them there, I will be forced to deal with the clutter. And in order for me to deal with it, I had to compartmentalize it and organize it and sort it off of this surface. So my goal was to clean off this surface. In my mind, in order to do that, I needed to transfer it to a surface that I could work with, which was a bigger surface, to organize all the things that got put on here, because it was layered. There was stuff on top of stuff on top of stuff, and I really couldn't figure out what to do with everything. So I just transferred everything to a bigger surface so that I could deal with it. We actually got this cabinet that I'm clearing now free from our neighborhood Facebook group about a year ago. A lady was getting rid of it, and we jumped on the post and went over and got it, because I've been wanting a cabinet here in this section so I could start to put all the dog stuff somewhere. It was kind of scattered and disorganized throughout the house, so now I've centralized all the dog's stuff here in this cabinet. And what I like to have here is our skylight calendar. It's sort of not having a home right now, and I want to be able to put it somewhere where the kids can get to it. So ultimately what I want to put here is our skylight calendar. This is Pothos food. I have not fed my darling Pothos in a while, like at all this winter. So I figured while I was here, I should feed her. And I picked off the dead leaves and gave her a proper talking to so that she could come back to life for spring. Thank goodness the Pothos are resilient. Here's the pile of stuff. I was organizing it as I was putting it off of this surface. I use Attitude Cleaner, and that's what I'm using here, just Attitude in a paper towel to wipe down the lamp. I'm going to end up wiping the frame and the surface of the cabinet. My goal was to clear this cabinet back to just what I like to have here, which is a lamp, the plant, and then this picture frame, which I'm actually going to take away and put the skylight calendar. This cabinet actually used to be over to the right more, and those snowman paintings were centered above it. And the cabinet has drifted over this way because of access to the basement, but I can't move the snowmen because of the thermostat, so I may need to rehome those snowmen because they look off center from the cabinet itself. But those snowmen were one of the last things that I got to do with my mom before she passed, and my daughter made one too. And so they actually hang up there year round, not just for the winter. I just may need to find a different spot in our house to feature them. Many times my process when clearing just one shelf Sundays here, is to get everything off the shelf and then deal with the stuff after I've actually accomplished that task of getting the shelf the way that I want it, or the surface, or the cabinet, or the drawer. And then I'm left with all the stuff. And that for me is always a hard part. The decluttering decisions are now in front of me. What am I going to keep? What am I going to trash? What am I going to give away? What can I sell? If I'm going to keep it, where am I going to keep it? Because it can't go back on the surface that it was put on. And a lot of times, at least in my house, stuff ends up on surfaces in that way because it just doesn't have a home designated inside our home yet, and it needs that. Or we just didn't take the time to put it where it belongs. That happens too, which is a mixture of the stuff that I took off the shelf. Stuff that doesn't have a home, stuff that was actually just trash, and then stuff that does have a home and didn't make it to its home because we just came in and dropped it. Because it is actually on the pathway from our entryway to the kitchen, which is our most traveled path in the house. And so that cabinet serves as like a temporary dumping ground on the way to the kitchen from the entryway. There was a deck of cards that was just scattered on top of the surface that I cleared. And it didn't feel like, it felt bigger than a regular deck of cards, and I was right. I had 6 extra cards. And so I decided to see if I even had a full deck, and what, like maybe I just had 6 extra cards from another deck. They were all had the same back, that red typical feature from a deck of cards. And I was trying to figure out if I just had 6 extras from another deck, or if I even had a full deck. And so I separated it by suit and then tried to get from ace to king, and 2 of the suits were missing cards, and I still had 6 extra cards, like an extra ace of hearts, an extra king of clubs. And so I gave up. I couldn't make a proper 52 card deck from the 58 cards that were on top of that surface. I don't know why that was the case. I don't know why I had this random mixture of cards. Regardless, I tried to figure it out. I tried to sort through it, and then I realized I didn't have it. So I decided to throw all 58 cards away, because what is the point of having an incomplete deck and too many cards? And I have other decks of cards in the house. I know I do. I don't even know where this one came from. So I made the decision to trash it. I was feeling a little overwhelmed by the number of things that needed to make a decision on, what to keep, what to trash, and if I was going to keep it, where was I going to keep it, where did it belong in the house. There was a lot of stuff on here that I didn't necessarily want to trash, that wasn't mine, so I put into the bag for my husband because that's his choice to make. And you know, it's one of those things where I'm basically transferring clutter from that surface into the bag for him to deal with, but those aren't my decisions to make. So I gathered that up for him. And then when he's in the mood, he can just sit down with that red bag and go through it. And maybe a bunch of it is trash, but that's his choices. Those are his choices to make. And so as I'm going through all of this stuff, I'm figuring out, like, what can I live without this? That's a question that I ask myself, more so than do I need this or should I keep this? It's, can I live without this? Because if the answer is yes, it's a lot easier for me to let go of whatever that is. There was some kids' artwork that I don't necessarily want to let go of, that has to be like filed away into a keepsake box that I have. There were just random papers. There was charger cords, stuff, my husband's mail. There were beads, letter beads for the Girl Scout troop that I participated in with my daughter. There was just stuff. And then once I sorted and organized trash versus keep, I had to start to think through where I was going to put everything in the house. I started with things I knew where I was going to put. This goes in the living room. those are things for church. I had some books. These are the Girl Scout beads. That just goes in my Girl Scout supplies right in the living room. The other room, that's my pile for trash, right? All those folders, and that's all trash. And then this is all my husband's stuff that needs to go into his red bag, except for that can of paint. I was just going to put that in the garage. And then these are some paperwork things, my paperwork that needs to go upstairs. This ornament that the kids got my husband, it ended up there. It just has to go in the Christmas box. The dog's collar. So, these are all mini categories of things that have homes in my house. And I just needed to put everything away at this point. Sometimes this part of the process can trip me up a little bit, especially if I have organized things on a surface, a secondary surface that we don't use a lot. That's why I picked the kitchen table specifically, because we do use the kitchen table all the time. So I knew I couldn't leave the things here. But if I do it on my dining room table, sometimes it'll sit there for longer than I want it to. So by putting it on here, I'm forcing myself to put things away, and putting those things into the trash was very satisfying because I don't need to keep everything. And then everything else that was there just had to be walked to its spot and put in its home. And I find that part a little bit tedious because it's like a physical reminder of, don't put things down, put them away. Take the 1 minute and put it away when you get home. But this project here took me under 30 minutes, and I took my time with it. I was able to slow roll my way through this process and deciding where things were going to go and finding a home. Now, this toy didn't have a home at the start of it. This is one thing I did have to find a home for. And we've had this empty basket at the end of the shoe cabinet. The kids play with this toy a lot, especially when their friends are over. So I wanted to make sure that I did find a home for it, which I did right here at the end of the shoe cabinet. And now the surface of the cabinet is clean like I liked. And I was able to get the skylight calendar in place here on the cabinet, and this is how the cabinet lives today. Thank you so much for being here with me and sharing time today to declutter and clean my shelf on One Shelf Sunday. Hopefully that's inspired you to do the same, and I hope you're doing well. See you in the next video.